Hello, I am Garga Chatterjee. I am an assistant professor of cognitive science in the Indian Statistical Institute, and I am a Bengali. I am a Bengali from Western Bengal, and I am here to tell you how what West Bengal is, what West Bengal was, what West Bengal can be, and how these issues are extremely related to how Bengalis are empowered in West Bengal. Now, West Bengal is a state in the Indian Union. It's a constituent state of the Union of India. The Union of India is a multinational federation of diverse nationalities. West Bengal is historically part of Bengal, which was comprised of Western Bengal, Eastern Bengal, which is known as Bangladesh at this point, Barak Valley in Assam, Tripura, and certain zones of what is now Jharkhand, Orissa. These are also states of Bengal, states of the Indian Union, and these comprise of the eastern zone of the Indian Union. And it's very important that just by dint of not being a sovereign nation, we often forget how important we miss out certain important things. We miss out certain important personalities. We miss out certain important diversities. We miss out certain important markets. We miss out certain important initiatives because people are extremely used to use the category of sovereign states to use as their category of analysis. But the category of analysis always has to be people. And in terms of people, let me just state that West Bengal has more people than Germany. West Bengal has more people than Iran. West Bengal has more people than Turkey. West Bengal has more people than the United Kingdom. West Bengal has more people than France. West Bengal has more people than Italy. West Bengal has more people than South Africa, South Korea, Spain, Argentina, and the list goes on, Canada, right? And these are very well-known places, right? And so at first we have to get out of the mindset that only the names that we know, which are comprised of sovereign states, UN members, that's what makes up the unit of humanity. The unit of humanity are people. Unit of humanity are not administration. And this land, West Bengal, which is now called Bangla. Bangla is really comprises of the delta, the world's largest delta, where the river Ganga opens itself up to the Bay of Bengal. The red laterite soil of Rar, that it kind of slopes up very thinly into northern Bengal and up till the Himalayas. So it's Himalayas in the north, and then Bay of Bengal in the south, Bangladesh as a border in the east, and then Bihar and Jharkhand, the plateaus in the west, and also the upper Indo-Gangetic plain in the west. So it's a very, very important location. It's a very, very important location, and it is due to this important location of being an outlet to a large hinterland of raw material, of finished goods, of import, and various ways and various kind of cross connections between people which stopped at this zone or passed through this zone has historically made Bengal a very prosperous place. A very prosperous place. So for example, for a large part of interior China, the Calcutta port, the Kolkata port, the Haldia port is really the easiest area through which they can get their stuff in and can get their stuff out, which means it's cheap when you get it in through Bengal. And the British understood it too, which is why they kind of started their very dangerous colonial expansion from Bengal to take over the whole of South Asia. Bengal or Bangla shares its international borders with 3 sovereign states: the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Nepal and Bhutan. This is very few regions of the world are located in a place so strategic. Bengal really is the apex where the whole of the South Asian landmass and the whole of the Southeast Asian landmass sort of meets. So it's in a confluence of civilization and cultures. When the British took over, colonized the South Asia, at that point of time South Asia was producing more than 20% of the world GDP. This is a statistic which everyone knows. A part of a statistic that is not known, that of this 22%, 6% came from Bengal. 6% used to be extracted from Bengal, right? Which made it one of the most prosperous, if not the most prosperous zone in the whole world. That's what we are talking about. And we are not talking about some, some prehistorical period. We are talking 300 years ago. Then what happened? There was very strategic deindustrialization. There was very strategic deindustrialization of Bengal, okay, and that strategy of deindustrialization has continued after the partition of Bengal in 1947. The partition of Bengal in 1947 into West Bengal as a constituent state of the Indian Union, and the peoples in East Bengal which then was part of Pakistan and became a sovereign state later on, Bangladesh, actually decoupled and destroyed huge interlinkings that were between the economies of largely rural East Bengal and somewhat more industrialized West Bengal. Okay. Apart from that, that was a huge blow. Apart from that, the union government in Delhi since 1947 to 2018 today has been extracting minerals, resources and what not from Bengal. It's a plunder. It's a plunder. For example, Bengal's coal mines do not belong to Bengal. Bengal's docks do not belong to Bengal. Bengal's major rivers do not belong to Bengal. So which means our major infrastructure, our revenue sources, they exist in our land but they do not belong to Bengal. The money is taken away by Delhi to subsidize certain underdeveloped areas, right? Which means that we are prosperous but we do not get the fruits of our prosperity. And all that is slowly changing, not because Delhi now looks upon Bengal with any favorable way, but because Bengalis, after the people of Bengal, comprising of more than 86% Bengalis, are taking their future now in their own hands. Bengali entrepreneurship is growing. Bengali markets are growing. When I mean Bengali market, it means that Bengalis are starting to take control of their own markets, and it is a huge market. Let me tell you something. It is an area whose gross state domestic product in 2015-16 was 140 billion US dollars. That's not a small amount, and it is a market of 100 million people. Okay. Its gross value added growth rate in 2015-16 was 12.02%, far in front of India, far ahead. Its industrial sector growth rate was 10.59%, far in front of India. Its agricultural sector growth was 5.55%, 5 times more than India. Its service sector growth was 13.99%, far in front of India. So why do you not hear about the buzz of Bengal? The huge part of that problem is that Bengal's own markets, Bengal's own capital, Bengal's own jobs are not controlled by Bengalis. Now this is a problem. It is a problem for any people, that if you do not control your own market, if you do not control your own resources like minerals, Bengal produces 20% of all the minerals of the Indian Union. If you do not control your economy, you do not even control your jobs, which means that the capital is produced here, but it does not get reinvested here. It gets taken away by people who have no ethnic, cultural, and patriotic connections to this land. That is the process that should change, and in Bengal we are seeing the first green shoots of a new revival where Bengal's empowerment, now we understand, is intrinsically tied to the empowerment of Bengalis. And what does the empowerment of Bengalis mean? The empowerment of Bengalis mean that Bengalis through their population proportion should own the capital markets of Bengal, should own the trading markets of Bengal, should own all the goods, in that proportion, the goods dealerships of Bengal, and hence the jobs, and hence the economy, and hence there will be reinvestment and prosperity, and we are seeing some of that. The most successful private bank that has been formed in the Indian Union in recent times has been from Bengal. It's Bandhan Bank. And there are many such examples. At present, Bengal is extremely strong. It leads India in the MSME sector, that's medium, micro and small scale industries. And there, it's labor intensive, and there, it's very Bengali heavy. So all things which come with goodness, which come with local empowerment and local development and local reinvestment, that centers around people who think of Bengal as homeland, who speak the language of the land, who identify with the language and culture of the land. This is very important. The idea of this is, unless you have a national bourgeoisie, unless you have a powerful national bourgeoisie, you do not have what we call development in its full-fledged form. Otherwise, you become a client. You become basically a market for external goods. Let me give you a recent example. A very important idea that Bengal is taking now is self-sufficiency. Because every time you import stuff, what you do is you put your hard-earned money away and get goods, right? So you do not develop capital. If you do not develop capital, you do not have the capacity to build your own stuff, build your own projects. So right now there has been a very strong initiative to become self-sufficient in fish, to become self-sufficient in eggs. You know, Bengal is a huge consumer of these things, huge, right? So this is just a very small example. And Bengal revels in having a very humane policy of non-displacement, of a policy of economic development that empowers and doesn't displace, that is inclusive and not exclusionary, and that takes everyone together for the benefit of all. This is extremely important, which is why right now there has been serious interest about investments in Bengal from Southeast Asia, from China. However, the union government in Delhi has been trying to nix all kinds of opportunities that Bengal might have. Bengal is not being allowed to make full use of its God-given geographical location. I mean, this is extremely dangerous, because when the union government of a state actually conspires actively against a constituent unit, it's a recipe for disaster. But Bengalis, who are peace-loving people, have taken that in their own stride and are developing their own course of prosperity. Right now, what we have is stability, political stability. This is a land where communal amity exists. That is the hallmark of Bengalis. It's a hallmark of Bengalis. It's a rich culture. It's a rich syncretic culture. It's a culture where we give and we take, but we are never swept out of our feet. At this point, you have a union government which wants to impose one language, one culture, one whatever, a uniform kind of a bland uniformity, a bland external uniformity on the people of Bengal, and Bengalis are resisting it. So watch this space, watch the space of Bengal. These are 100 million people here. It's a huge economy. It really is the apex where South Asia and Southeast Asia meet. It's a confluence of civilizations. Bengalis are not one race. Bengalis are 1,000 races, all mixed together, amalgamated in this land. This is a special land. This is a special land, and in this special land where nature's bounty is so much that it is, even with the lowest total fertility rate in the whole of Indian Union, Bengal is the most dense area in the whole world. The largest, the most dense, largest contiguous area in the whole world map is Bengal, because it's a magnet for survival. It's a magnet for creativity. It's a magnet for human values. And that's what makes Bengal and its culture, taken up through Bengalis and also other nationalities and ethnicities who live here, such a wonderful place. So at this point of time, Bengali entrepreneurship, Bengali political space, Bengali linguistic identity, all these are undergoing a flux. In a sense, what we are seeing is a revival. Is a revival of the Bengali spirit that swept through much of the world and influenced much of the world pre-partition. And since then, through a conspiracy of the union government at Delhi, there has been a slow decline. But all that is changing. And even Asia News, the portal in which you are watching this right now, is a part of this change. For example, the media world in Bengal, for the longest time has been owned by external people, by people headquartered elsewhere, and people who act as agents of external groups. Now Bengal has its own voice. Asia News is part of that initiative, where for an Anglophone crowd, for an English-knowing crowd, you have a full-fledged Asia-wide news portal. That's the game that Bengalis need to play. That's the level at which the Bengalis of West Bengal need to play. And they have started to play it with confidence, with a verve that is intrinsic to them, but for the longest time, through injection of inferiority complex and extraction of capital and minerals and everything that Bengal produces, union government at Delhi was partly successfully able to inculcate. That is changing. It's a bright day. It's a bright future for Bengal. And remember that Bengal, as I said, being at the apex of Southeast Asia and South Asia, has a unique position from where it gives its culture represents this confluence of civilizations. It is well connected with the booming hubs of Asia like Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia. It is very well connected by flights and by geographical distance. Its hinterland is mineral rich and tourism heavy. Do visit Bengal, by the way. It's a wonderful place that we Bengalis call home. It has the Himalayas, the Duars, the Delta, the rich culture of temples and mosques, centuries old, beaches, whatnot, right? And the thriving city of Kolkata, that too, welcomes you. It has the third largest road network in South Asia, more than, it's 3,15,000 kilometers. It's richly endowed with maritime advantages, multiple ports, all opening up to the Bay of Bengal, and all of these ports through which stuff was looted by the British, which made small towns in Britain into cities that you know now. It has 4 airports and the 5th one is being planned, and it has a large amount of inland waterways which are very cheap for goods transport, more than 4,000 kilometers of railway tracks, the oldest metro rail system in the Indian Union and in whole of South Asia really, a very rich literary culture, a very rich political culture, a civilized culture, a culture of tolerance, a culture that lets everybody grow, a culture that accepts, a culture that gives, a culture that is confident. That is Bengali culture. It's a cuisine that has so many varieties. Bengaliness has to be also understood in its own shades. There is Bakri cuisine of the Bankura and the laterite soil area. There's the cuisine of North Bengal. There's the cuisine of Sylhet. Various types of cuisines have come together, as have immigrants, and they have contributed richly to what we call our culinary culture. Okay, Bengal has produced really almost all of the Nobel laureates that South Asia ever has had. Almost all, 80% of them. It's the largest power distribution in quality and availability. A huge amount of credit being given to MSME sector. As I said, Bengal leads in that. Produces green leaf vegetables and fruits in huge amounts. A huge amount of export sector development is happening right here. For think tanks, for example, for people who would want to watch Southeast Asia and South Asia, this is the place. This is where the action is. You have China on top. You have rest of India on the west. You have Southeast Asia to the east and southeast. This is where it is. It's a vantage up to Asia and where the world is, It produces Darjeeling tea, which is famous all over the world for its color, texture and taste, It is home to Bengal. So what you have is a rich place which has only now, with the revival of Bengali identity in a political form and in a cultural form and an economic form, that is starting to regain its own place in the world. It's a message that I, as a Bengali from West Bengal, wanted to give to you all. Thank you. And I wanted to give this message that things are changing and Bengalis should know that the future belongs to them. Joy Bangla.